APIs generally. I said it's an application programming interface. Basically, it helps handles requests and you send back a response generally. Um, and we're also able to actually talk about the tool which we use to test APIs generally. And we mentioned what's it called? Postman. uh, I was able to at least show you to an extent what it could do, how to go about it. Yes, what I might have shown you might not have been detailed enough, because trust me, learning it or materials I have or I had to go through was, I think it was close to like an hour. I said an hour. I think one of the materials I used is close to like 7 or 8 hours material just on Postman itself. So it is that wide, basically. Um, but I think in on the Udemy material itself, yeah, we have it. It has the introductory part. At least with that, having the basic knowledge or basic understanding of what it does is enough for a start. Now, depending on any company or role you probably might start applying for when you're ready, some role can be very specific. This is what we need. We need an API tester, or majority of what you'll be doing is testing the API. Some companies are well structured, or if I use the word well organized, in their space they have QA engineers that handle automation alone. Some space, the same company might have manual testers, they might have API testers, and they might have performance testers generally. So those are people, they expect at least you should have a broad knowledge of everything about testing, but on the long run, it's expected that each person should have like a niche area or a niche tool where you thrive, or where you, what's it called? Um, where you where you've mastered the skill or the tools that is required. For example, I don't know how Google work or how a Facebook work, or I mean their team setup and all of those things. But I believe those are the those are like the type of structures they should have established, because once you have a man that has been able to own a particular angle or a particular tool, it's very easy for the person to find their way around it, other than just one person doing everything. There's less effectiveness compared to somebody that has been able to master one tool. And I believe they have the funds and the capital to be able to employ people of such magnitude and all of those things. So basically, it is expected that you have at least basic knowledge or basic understanding of all of these areas when it comes to automation. And what are they? We have the API testing, which we use Postman. We have performance testing. That's another type of automation testing using JMeter. That is what we'll be looking at today. Performance testing using JMeter. And we also have automation testing. There is, for under automation testing for web, we have automation testing for web, and we also have automation testing for mobile. We'll be looking at the one for web. I'm not sure about the mobile part, but we'll be looking at the one for web, and probably maybe Selenium or Cypress. So it's expected that you have a good understanding of all of these things. It's just synonymous to a front-end developer. There are particular tools, or they call it tech stack, that they need to be familiar with. For a front end, for example, now you need to know HTML, you need to know CSS, you need to know JavaScript, or maybe C Sharp or Java. You need to at least know a framework or two, maybe React. So that's like learning four tools, or four a programming language, and maybe like four tools. You probably need to know them. You need to know how they work, and ability for you to sync them all in together to produce what you need or what you want. So those, it encompasses a lot. But it's understandable that for inception you might pretty find it difficult, but as time proceed, as you get to do more what's it called, task on it, you become a master of it. You come to understand with the challenges you get to face every day. I think I've learned more with challenges in while using it too. Maybe I'm stuck somewhere, probably especially when I was even learning programming, when I was trying to learn front end. There are days when you'll be stuck on a particular problem for more than 2, 4, 5 hours, even the whole day. And when you eventually get to diagnose the problem and find out what happened, it could be maybe a comma in the line of your code. Or maybe you forgot to add one particular number or column and all of those things. And it can disrupt a lot. But in all of that, once you've been able to make such mistakes, it makes you better. In the future, you will tend to make less of such mistakes. Even such happens or occurs, you know what to do, you know where to go to, you know what to click on, and you know how you go around it and solve whatever issues or problem you are faced with or tasked with. So basically, don't be overwhelmed. Yes, it might sound like jargons. Some of these things might sound strange. They might not become familiar. A few persons might even be asking, but I thought they say we will not be doing programming or all of that in what's it called, QA. Yes, you will not. Yes, you can. Yes, you may. Yes, you may not. So it's dependent. Some people are strict manual testers, and what they do basically is just undo test case, test the application, maybe a little of API, but most of what they majorly do is manual testing. They have their test case, they have their bug sheet report. That's what they basically do. But I believe with time, some of these things might fade out, especially with the introduction of AIs and all of these other things. They might fade out. But so that is where upskilling comes. That is where you need to upskill. You need to pick up new tools. You need to pick up new technologies, learn them, know what it does, upskill. So it is advisable for me. After my first 6 months, I picked up an automation tool for web, and that was Cypress. I started learning it. I was opportune on my job to start automating some of the system on the company. And voila, I did one or two, and my hand, at least I had an experience. I was able to present it to the team itself, and they saw it. It was one of the leverage I had for me to move into another company to get another job, because with my upskilling, it came with me having the ability to ask for more, especially when it comes to compensation and all of those things. So that is what it presents to you. So if you want to remain as a manual tester, no problem. But I always advise there's always room for growth, room to upskill, because that is when you can really have a good bargain. People will pay you for what you would do or what you bring to the table, and the more you have to offer, the more you get, compensation wise, growth wise in the organization itself, but also putting into consideration your negotiation skills. A few of us can be very scared with negotiating prices and all of that, but I understand over time you come to learn and understand how these things work generally. So today we'll be looking at performance testing using JMeter. um, I'm going to share my screen now. Please confirm you can see my screen, guys. Can anybody confirm, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Today we'll be looking at performance testing using JMeter. I remember in our previous class, I think that was in January, we talked about performance testing, and I said it was a non-functional testing. It deals with the non-functional part of the application itself. Non-functional being maybe the load, the stress, and all of those things. The functional parts are when we interact with the system itself as an end user. The non-functional talks about the application itself. All those parts we don't interact with, but they also go a long way. They play a major role in how the application works generally. Performance testing is a type of non-functional testing in which the performance of the application is evaluated under expected or higher load. I think the most important thing with performance testing, I think the backbone is load. And what do we mean load? It means how would this application handle a certain number of load? I believe the joy or the gladness of any application or any product is the fact that it has loads of customers using it. Facebook will not be successful today or well known if it doesn't have a certain number of users. WhatsApp will not be popular today if it doesn't have a certain number of users. So the joy of any product or any founder of any application itself is the fact that it has a lot of users, end users using the application itself. So putting into consideration not just the application itself, but once a certain number of people use this application, how will this application adjust? How will this application react? Maybe the application with whatever they've been able to set up while developing, it could only accommodate maybe 100,000 users at the same time. But if this application gets to eat its beak, maybe people be all of a sudden like what they see, and they didn't prepare for as much as 10,000 or maybe 300,000 users. And lo and behold, one time they had like maybe 250 users trying to access the application at the same time. If they didn't put that into consideration while developing the application, there's every possibility or there's an high chance that the application will crash itself. And it might take time for them to be able to recover or be able to, restore business in such scenarios or in such, products. So it is always very important performance test is done. Performance testing is carried out to measure different performance attributes of the system, like response time. Response time is, okay, I request for, maybe a data on the back end. Maybe I'm trying to request for a particular page load. How fast will this thing happen? And how fast would I get my response? I get to the restaurant. Response time in a restaurant setting is, in API setup or the the scenario we painted is, I get to the restaurant, I ask the waiter, I want maybe basmati rice or maybe spaghetti. His response time is how much time it takes him to get to the kitchen, talk to the people in the kitchen, how much time they get to prepare the food and get it and come serve me. That is the response time. So the response time in this sense is, I request for a particular data, maybe a particular page from the backend. How fast or how much time is required for me to get a feedback? Will I get a feedback from the backend itself? The moment I have maybe 200,000 users trying to access the same data or trying to use the same API, it might give me a slow response because it is trying to maybe do we have what we call FIFO, first in, first out. That means the first request is whoever makes the first request is who gets it, gets a feedback first. So it might need to start servicing other people first before it gets to my turn. So that time is some of those things we put into consideration as per response time. How fast is this application? If I click on this, am I getting am I getting a feedback immediately? Maybe in millisecond. Sometimes it might take you seconds or minutes before the website would load and you will get what you need to, the information you're trying to access. Another thing they put into consideration in performance testing is reliability. How reliable is this application? Resource usage, scalability. Scalability is very important. A Facebook, for example, now, or a WhatsApp, I'm very sure when they started up, they didn't expect to have the number of users they have today. But one of the things they did or they might have done is the ability to scale the product. The moment that they see that, we didn't make provisions for maybe 1 million users, while building the application, what we built it for was maybe 500,000 users. Performance testing will help you know that, is this application scalable? Can we increase maybe the number of servers, maybe the number of servers? Can we increase it? Can we see how we can ensure that if we start to exceed the number of users that is expected to use the application, we can make provisions for more servers so that when people make requests, the servers, the APIs have enough, servers and all of those things. They are able to get their response in maybe milliseconds. So those are the things they put into consideration during performance testing. So you see that there's a lot going on in IT, in a web application, for example, or in a product-based company, an Amazon, a Facebook, a WhatsApp. People are constant. These are applications that are running 24 hours. I remember there was, I think it was in June or maybe it was late last year, WhatsApp was down and it was all over the world. It was all over the news for something that has been running maybe concurrently for like 7 months non-stop. But the moment it was down for a while, you saw how many people were disturbed and all of those things. So that's how delicate these things are. Shows you how delicate. How it looks simple while you're using it. These applications look, oh, this is just an application, but the underwork, what is happening underneath these applications, you'll be marveled when you get some of these companies and see how much is required to run to provide these services. They can't even afford, their server centers can't even afford to have maybe 1 minute light out. It will tell. A number of people will lose. There are millions of dollars that will be lost. So it shows you these are the things they need to put into perspective, into play while they are developing all of these applications, especially when they are trying to scale. Maybe they see that the number of users has increased and they need to make provisions for this certain number of users. So those are the things that happens underneath that we are not aware of. All we see or all we handle or all we do is we just use an application. When it's not working, when it's not fast, we start complaining. But there's a lot that happens underneath, and provisions need to be made for such scenarios that I just talked about now. Stability under variety of load conditions, etc. Why do we need performance testing? Before launching the final software product in the market, the product should be tested against the speed, scalability, and stability under a variety of load conditions. So what are we talking about when we mean variety of load conditions? We look out for two things. One, how will this application perform under the expected load? While building, we know that, okay, a certain number, these are like the certain number of users we expect. How will this application behave under it? Because now we are simulating users. You know, I told you what one of the things this application does, or this tool does, it helps simulate number of users using the application itself. So we don't even need real users using it first. We can simulate 100,000 users using an application concurrently and see how the application will respond. Its response time, its throughput time, and all of those things. The second part is how will this application behave or perform under a certain load that exceeds the required load. The moment we are exceeding maybe 700,000 users trying to use the application concurrently, how would and what we provided for was 500,000 users. But now we can actually simulate a certain number of users using the application concurrently that exceeds the load that that had been set out for the application itself. So those are the things this particular tool helps handle. If the product goes live without doing performance testing, it may cause issues like slow processing and poor usability. Trust me, even me and you, we know ourselves. Any application you pick up or any website you pick up and it is slow, we start complaining. For us, the usability, the UX is already poor already because the response time is very slow. We like applications where we use and while swiping, it is pretty responsive. It's just like using a laptop that probably maybe the memory is full, or maybe the the core is probably low, maybe a core i2 or a core i3, for example, and you want to run a certain game on the application itself. For those that are gamers, and the system or the laptop starts lagging, it can be very frustrating. You rather not even play the game than try and play it, and the system is lagging. So those are the things we need to put into consideration. That's where performance testing comes into play. Generally, not for the laptop side of things though, but application-wise, mobile application, web application itself. If the product goes live without doing performance testing, it may cause issues like slow processing and poor usability, which likely to gain a bad reputation, and it affects the expected sales goals directly. So these are the types of performance testing. There are a lot, but at least these are like the regular ones. We have load testing, we have stress testing, we have spike testing, we have scalability testing, we have volume testing, and we also have endurance testing. We'll look at what load testing is. I know we've talked about this, but just to help refresh our understanding of it, load testing is a type of performance testing that simulates a real-world load on any software, application, or website. It's very, I believe it's straightforward as per the definition or understanding of this particular type of testing. If you could be asked, what is load testing? I don't need so much story. Just tell me it's a type of performance testing that simulates real world load on any software, application, or website. Anybody you give such answers should see you as somebody who understands what it is itself. It helps to determine how the system behaves under both normal and at peak conditions. Load testing can be performed under controlled lab conditions to compare the capabilities of different systems or to accurately measure the capabilities of a single system. Stress testing. Stress testing is also a type of performance testing which helps to determine the ability of a computer, network, program, or device to maintain a certain level of effectiveness under favorable conditions. I know this one is a bit long, but just try and get familiar with the keywords, like I always say. Putting the application under duress and putting the application under duress or under a certain type of stress and see how the application what's it called fares is straightforward. It's something you could easily, these are like definition of terminologies you could give if they ask you what it is itself. So basically it's just to help determine how the application would or maybe application, network, or program or device will maintain a level of effectiveness under unfavorable conditions. So most times stress deals more with exceeding the load, the required load for an application. Load testing is most times a certain number, and those numbers in larger percentages what is expected. But for stress, we are stressing it beyond the normal load that is expected to be on the system itself. We are going to place a certain load on the application and see how it reacts. Stress testing is also known as fatigue testing. Then we talk about spike testing. Spike testing is a type of performance testing in which an application receives a sudden and extreme increase or decrease in load. Basically, spike testing is a type of performance testing. For example, a typical scenario of spike testing is I simulate that maybe 10,000 users are using the application concurrently. And maybe in the next 5 minutes, I could just make from that 10,000, I could drop them to 100,000. From 10,000 users to 100 users. It's a massive drop. You just imagine 90,000, maybe let's say 9,000 users logging off at the same time, and it's just left with 1,000 users. That's like spike, a drop. There's a level of drop, a sudden drop. How would the application adjust? Another type is probably maybe I have 100 users using the application currently. Maybe it's midnight or maybe around 4 a.m. I have maybe like 100 users, for example, using the application. And lo and behold, once it becomes maybe 5 a.m., when people are already awake, they pick up the application and 5 a.m., more than maybe 19,000 users or 20,000 users are trying to access the application at the same time. These are all simulated. How would the application undo such from 100 to maybe 90,000? It's a sudden change. It's sudden. It's a sudden increase. How will the application adjust? The goal of spike testing is to determine the behavior of a software application when it receives extreme variations in traffic. I think the people that tend to experience this more are the Amazons, maybe on a Black Friday, or maybe the Jumia, some of these websites where they sell stores and deliver, especially during Black Fridays. when you know there's like a massive increase or massive need for the usage of the application itself, there's always like a spike. These are where spike tests come. You have maybe 100 users trying to use it, and they say maybe by 6 o'clock or 6 p.m., there's a search. You're going to be able to win an iPhone 14, and there's a massive maybe turnout for people looking for the iPhone 18 in one particular section of the application. There will always be an increase in usage at that period. So those are the scenarios we try to paint, or we try to ensure we've been able to test and see how the application would balance things. The goal of spike testing is to determine the behavior of the software application when it receives extreme variation in traffic. Spike testing addresses more than just an application maximum load. It also verifies an application's recovery time between activity spikes. The word spikes refers to the sudden increase or decrease in traffic. So we are also going to be looking at what endurance testing is. Endurance testing refers to tests typically done to find out whether an application can withstand the processing load it is expected to have to endure for a long period. During endurance tests, memory consumption is observed to determine potential failures. Performance quality is sometimes also monitored during endurance testing. Basically, it's just the expected, trying to test if the application is able to handle the expected load time, expected users on the application for how long. If they tend to use it for maybe 5 hours on a stretch and they don't log off the application, how would the application be able to endure that certain load for a period of time, basically. So that's what endurance testing entails. So what is JMeter itself, the tool we use to perform performance testing? JMeter is also known as Apache JMeter. Is an open source. When you hear the word open source, that means it is free. You don't need any subscription, or you don't need any payment to use the application. There are some certain applications that requires payment. Maybe for you to subscribe, maybe a particular number of people can use the application on your team and all of those things. But for something that is free that anybody could download and use, is called an open source tool. It's 100% Java-based application. Don't worry, don't be afraid of the Java you see there. You're really not going to be doing any programming using it. With a graphical interface, it is designed to analyze and measure the performance and load functional behavior of web application and varieties of services. JMeter is mainly used for testing web applications of FTP application, but currently it is applicable in functional testing. JDBC database connections is also used for testing database, web services, generic TCP connections, and operating system native processes. You can perform various testing activities like performance, load, stress, regression, and functional testing in order to get accurate performance metric against your web services. JMeter was originally written and developed by Stefano Mazzocchi of the Apache Software Foundation. It was primarily written to test the performance of Apache JServer, currently known as Apache Tomcat project. Apache redesigned JMeter to enhance the graphics user interface, that's what GUI means, to add more features and functional testing capabilities. JMeter is not a browser, and it doesn't render HTML pages like any browser does. Rather, it works on protocol level. Basically, you will see the interface. It's not a particular tool I use often, so I will not say I'm skilled using it, or it's not my forte, but we will still see how it is installed, how we use it, and all of those things. A web server carries a lot of number of applications and users. So it is necessary to know that how capable a web server is to handle simultaneous users or applications. For example, how Java T-Point, that's like a website, supporting server will perform when a number of users simultaneously access the Java T-Point website. Simultaneously means concurrently. Maybe 100 users at the same time are trying to access the same information. Basically, you have to do performance testing using performance testing tool like JMeter. Working on JMeter, JMeter sends requests to a target server by simulating a group of users. That is the key word, simulate. It doesn't need real users. It has been programmed in a way where it presents itself as an individual user, like a normal user would use an application, but it is simulated. So it doesn't require human interference. It is just simulated by the computer itself. Subsequently, data is collected to calculate statistics and display performance metrics of the target server through various formats. JMeter workflow diagram. First thing is user request for server connection, request sent to appropriate server, and simulate the number of users. From there, we get the server response. JMeter saves all responses. JMeter collects data to manipulate statistical information, and then we end the process, and there's a report that is actually printed out. So actually, this is not one of the tools I use often at work. So I will not call myself a master of it. But what I'm going to currently do now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a screen on YouTube, and we will see how it is properly used, how to go about the installation and all of those things. Because if I really want to teach it, or if I really want to explain it, I might not do justice to it as expected, because it is not one of the tools I use often. So I will not say I'm a master of the tool itself. Before I project the video, does anybody have any question? I know some of these things might sound like, what's it called? It might sound strange. But does anybody have any question? Me, David, Toyosi, Fei. I know I've been speaking gibberish. Does anybody have any question?
No gibberish. I they follow.
Oh, okay. I'm going to project the, what's it called now? I'm going to project it to the video itself now. Just a moment. Please confirm you can see the screen itself. Guys.
I'm sorry, I have a question. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. And was anybody trying to ask a question, guys?
Okay.
Guys, please confirm you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So let me just proceed with the.
Hey everyone, welcome to Simply Learn's YouTube channel. Today, we will be learning about load testing with JMeter. Let us first have a quick look on the agenda for today's session. We shall begin with learning the basics of load testing and what is its relevance. Then, we shall learn the different tools that are used for load testing. After that, we shall focus on one such tool, that is JMeter. Then, we shall see some reasons why we should use JMeter to perform load testing. Finally, we shall see the process to perform load testing in both graphical user interface and non-graphical user interface mode in JMeter. But before we begin, make sure that you have subscribed to our YouTube channel and click that bell icon so that you can never miss an update from Simply Learn. So without further ado, let's get started with the first topic, that is, what is load testing? Load testing is a type of performance testing that determines an application's behavior when a large number of users access the application together. Here, performance testing is a software testing process used to test the speed, response time, stability, and reliability of the software application under a particular workload. The testing determines a system's performance according to real-life conditions. To give you a better idea, let's say you have a printer. So you want to test a printer by transferring large number of documents for printing, or test a mail server with thousands of concurrent users, or to test a word processor by making a change in a large volume of data. This helps to know whether the existing infrastructure is capable of running the application or not. Load testing checks how much load can a system handle. The testing identifies the limitations due to hardware like CPU maximization, network bottleneck, memory limitation, etc. And it also identifies the issues in software configuration such as web server, application server, database server, etc. It helps to identify the maximum operating capability of an application and checks the performance of the application under different load conditions of system components and database components. Load testing is conducted to determine the number of concurrent users that an application can support without performance deterioration. The response time of each transaction of an application and the network delay between the client request and server response are also checked. Load testing proves itself very significant when it comes to determining user demands and satisfaction. Several tools make load testing possible, such as Apache JMeter, WebLoad, Load UI, Load Runner, NeoLoad, Load Ninja, etc. Here in this session, we shall be using JMeter for load testing. So JMeter or Apache JMeter is open source software that is 100% pure Java application. The application is designed to load or test functional behavior and measure performance. Performance testing means testing a web application against heavy load, multiple and concurrent user traffic. It was originally designed for testing web applications but has since expanded to other test functions. To simplify, let us assume that someday your team leads tell you to perform performance testing for some websites like yahoo.com or google.com for 100 users. What would be the first thing that comes to your mind? Do you think it's practically possible to arrange 100 people with 100 computers and access the internet and accessing the same website? Now, just imagine the infrastructure requirement when this testing has to be done for 1,000 or 10,000 users. This is when we need a software like JMeter. So what JMeter does is it simulates. It will simulate real user behaviors and perform load testing on a server, group of servers, network, or object. Next, let's have a look at some reasons why JMeter is used for load testing. We have divided these reasons into 6 parts. It is free of cost, performance testing of applications, platform independent, customizable, recording and playback, and community support. Now, let's see all of these one after the other. The first one, free of cost. One of the main deciding factors in any software is its cost. Normally, a software can range from high as 6 to 7 figures per license. Here, JMeter is free of cost, very intuitive, and has all the possibilities you need to automate your work. The next one is performance testing of applications. The application is used to perform performance testing on different applications like web applications, web servers, LDAP, database, and shell scripts. JMeter can conduct load and performance tests for many different server types like web, HTTP, and HTTPS, database via JDBC, LDAP, and JMS. The third important reason is
Just to confirm, guys, hope you can hear and see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
its platform independent nature. JMeter is written and developed using Java programming language to run on any environment or workstation that accepts a Java virtual machine. For example, Windows, Linux, Mac, etc. The next reason we have is JMeter is highly customizable. Since JMeter is an open source application, it enables developers to customize it whenever needed. JMeter has a comprehensive and user-friendly graphical user interface. Parameters are easy to define and understand, scripting is simpler and cleaner, and adding and defining elements is more intuitive. Also, one screen shows you everything you need: the script, the scenario, and the analysis. The samplers are highly customizable when determining which request is to be sent to a host. However, samplers don't enable full control of test actions. Moving forth, the following reason is recording and playback. The application provides record and playback options enabled with the drag and drop features, making the application faster and easier. The next and the last reason in our list is incredible community support. JMeter is an open source tool with a brilliant community that keeps adding features and supports users who run into issues and problems. This ensures new users always have someone to answer their questions, and long-time users can improve their abilities on JMeter. Also, having an open source tool ensures it keeps getting better and always in line with users' needs and requirements. Now, after we know about JMeter and the reasons to use JMeter, let's understand the process to perform load testing with a hands-on demo. The only thing that is kept in mind before this demo is we must have a fully functional JMeter on our system, and by now we know that JMeter can be used in any operating system like Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and Ubuntu. In this demo, we shall look into both graphical user and non-graphical user interface mode of load testing. So the first step is we shall go to the Apache JMeter folder. In that folder, go inside the bin folder and select the jmeter.bat file. Double click on this file. This might take a while, and then the JMeter window will open on the screen. The home window is divided into two sections. On the left side, the elements of the test plan are added, and on the right side, all the configurations of the element that are added. As we are on the test plan element, we can see the configurations of the same. Here, the test plan is like a place or a container where all the elements we will use to perform this test will be stored. All the requests, the listeners, and everything will be stored here. So the first step is to add listeners. For that, go to test plan, right click on the test plan, go to add, then go to threads, users, and select a thread group. The test group refers to the users that are used or created or needed to run this test. It has several different options, like the action to be taken after there is an error. You can choose it the way you want. Then there is this number of threads where you can choose the number of users you want. Then there is a ramp up period in seconds option that states the time gap between the user's hits. Then the third one, there is a loop count where you can choose how many times the test will run for the number of users. You can also choose the test to run infinite times. There is also a scheduler here to help you schedule the start time and the test end time. For now, let's leave everything to be only one. The next step is to add the HTTP request. For that, right click on the thread group and go to the option and go to the sampler option and go to the HTTP request option. Here on the screen, there is a server name or IP box. We have to give the server name or the IP in that. Let's pick a website and place the link in that box. We shall use the Simplylearn's website here. Go to Simplylearn's website and copy the URL from there. Now we have copied the Simplylearn's URL. Now let's come back to the JMeter window and paste it in the server name box. Keep in mind that we don't need to give up the HTTP or HTTPS, since these are protocols which will come in the other box and they will be automatically taken in the HTTP request case. So this is what I was talking about. Now let's rename this name as Simply. Moving forth, let's create one more HTTP request. For that, again, right click on the thread group, select samplers and select HTTP request and go to Simplylearn's website again. And there we have the resource link. Go to that link and copy the URL, then place that URL in the server or IP address box. We shall remove the HTTP from that link and add from the end, cut the resource part and paste it in the path box there. Here we will rename the HTTP request as resources. Moving forward, to increase a load a little bit more, we shall use one more HTTP. So this time we shall add one more HTTP request. Again, right click on the threads group, go to the samplers option and select the HTTP request option again. To add one more link to the server and IP address, go to Simplylearn's website, go to the corporate training link. Now copy the URL and go back to the JMeter window and paste that URL in the IP box. Now cut the corporate training part from the link and paste it to the other path box. We shall again rename this HTTP request box as corporate. Now let's save this file. In the save dialog box, let's name it as loadtesting.jmx. Now, to get the results, we shall add listeners. Listeners are something that is used to provide the outputs of the load test. There are different types of listeners present in JMeter, and many may be added using plugins. The listener we will use here is the tree, as it is comparatively easy to interpret. For that, right click on the thread group, then go to add, select listener option, and we go for the view results in tree option. Now it's time to run the test and check the load. For running the test, there are three simple ways. First, you can simply click on the green button here to run. Second is you can go to the run option and choose the run test. And the third is the way you can right click on first JMeter and then choose run. Let's simply choose the green button and run the test. After we run the test, we shall go to the check the results of the test in the view results entry section. We can see the green symbol that states the test has successfully completed. Since we had left all the values to be 1 in the beginning, that's why there is just one test for each HTTP request. Now let's increase the load and let's change some numbers. Let's make the number of threads to be 10, ramp up the periods to be 2, and the loop count to be 10. Now let's run the test again with the green button. After running the test, we shall see the results in the tree and see the testing being performed. Since we have increased the number of users and ramp up the periods and the loop count, we can see the test being performed accordingly. Since the loop count now was 10 for each user, the test will run 10 times. So here on the screen, we can see the time taken and the number of tests being performed on the status of each hit onto the website. This is how you perform load testing in graphical user mode. Now perform the same test in non-graphical user mode. We shall remove the listener. So let's remove the view results in tree. After this, we will go to the command prompt. Then in the command prompt, we shall put the bin folder path in the Apache JMeter folder. Let's go to the bin folder and copy the location from here. Now paste the path in the command prompt and execute it. Once that is done, the next step is to put the command prompt for JMeter load testing. This command has got three parts. The first part is the -n, -t, and -l. Here, the -n represents the non-graphical user interface mode. -t is used to specify the location of the test script. -l is used to specify the location of our output result. Now go to the location where our JMX file is stored. Let's search for the load testing.jmx file. Copy the path and paste it in the command prompt -t. In the link that we paste towards the end, make sure that you add the name of the file with .gmx. Now go back to the folder and make a .csv file, make an Excel spreadsheet and rename it with .csv extension. Now copy this path and go back to the command prompt and paste it after the -l. In the path, don't forget to add the name of the CSV file towards the end. Then execute the command and wait for the command to end. After the command is successfully run, you can see that the tree is successfully created, and towards the end of that execution, you can see that the message is the end of the run. Now you can go back to the folder and open the loadtesting.csv file. In that file, you can see the entire test result has been generated. This shows that the command has been successfully executed and the load testing is successful in the non-graphical mode without any errors. This is what we had in this demo. We saw the load testing in graphical user interface and non-graphical user interface mode. To have a better picture, we use dashboards. Dashboards include several graphs that explain the working of the website link we use in the HTTP request. The dashboard generator is a modular extension of JMeter. Its default behavior is to read and process samples from a CSV file to generate HTML files. It generates the report and at the end of the load test or on demand. The dashboard reports provide metrics like the APDEX or Application Performance Index. The dashboard also provides a statistics table, response time over time, response times percentiles over time, active threads over time, and response times in percentiles. We shall learn about dashboards and more in the forthcoming videos. In this video, we learned how critical is load testing in the software testing process and how it ensures high user satisfaction. A successful load testing will help you release high quality software. And so with this, we have come to the end of this session. I hope you guys found it informative and helpful. If you have any queries and questions, do let us know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more from Simply Learn.
Hi guys, I hope that was explanatory enough. Do you have any questions? I know you said you should use the comment section, but I don't think we have any comment section here. So you could just ask me, and I'll answer as best as I can.
It was a bit
Everything
fast
has
though.
scattered. Oh. It is well. Oh.
See, let me come out straight with you. The reality is, at least I've worked in 3 places or 4 places already. I have never done this before. I've never been asked to do it. But it is very important for you to have at least basic knowledge or basic understanding of how this thing runs. So I'm not. I went through a training like this. They never even taught me. It was when I went online, I bought the material that I knew that performance testing existed like this. So I don't want to saddle you with so much expectation of you need to know it. Mine is have enough understanding, enough knowledge, read up, watch the material and the particular performance testing in that Udemy course I gave you. Watch and read and probably read up on it. Arm yourself with enough knowledge about the tool itself. It is always, in most times, it is always asked. It's not expected that it's something you'll be doing, but they just feel like what the guy said. You could be asked to do it on the project, on a particular project, or even during interviews. They will just ask you, "Okay, do you perform load testing?" All these things are just familiar. How will I put it? They are always one of those things. They just want to whine. They just want to use to tease you and all of those things. But I advise you, if you have interest in it, please do well to learn it. Like I always say, no skill or no knowledge is a waste. It could be what will stand you out in the interview yourself. Your ability to explain how it does. Get familiar with how it works. Get familiar with the metrics. All those response time, latency time, ramp up time. Get familiar with the metrics. Those are the things they really would lay more emphasis on. So I don't want to put in fear. I don't want you to get us to be afraid. So me, is that suiting enough? Is it calming enough? And for you too.
It could be. Well, the Udemy course, yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering, are we expected to like finish it up by the end of this program, by the end of our sessions, by March?
The issue is, I would advise you to what's it called? Maybe have a one-on-one with me, so that I would what's it called? Guide you to what you really need now. Some of the materials, some of the topics there are not really needed yet. And those ones, they really do take a lot of time already. Some are 2 hours and all of those things. So have a one-on-one session with me. Try and create maybe a one-on-one session, maybe tomorrow. It shouldn't take us more than 10 minutes. All I need you to just share your screen, maybe be on your laptop, or I can use my laptop. I'll share my screen and let you see the ones you don't need now so that you don't waste much time on it. Once you take that out, I expect that by March you should be done already. Because I really do want to have, for every one of us, I'm going to create times for an interview, a mock interview for everyone, where I'm going to be asking.
If you could kindly just brief it, not like go deep, like brief, like just brief identification, like the just maybe name the items or something.
I really can't because I don't even have it off my head right now. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
best time. Just it shouldn't be more. It shouldn't take us 5 minutes. So it's not something that I might need to postpone. No, no, no. Just reach out once I have once I have spare time. When you reach out, it shouldn't just take. We just jump on a call, maybe a Google.
Is
Meet
it for
call.
everyone?
Everyone that has the course, that has the material. Once you have the material with you, all I just need you is share your screen. I'll tell you what you don't need now. For now, you might need it when you get on the job, but for now, to get you at least an entry level, you might not need it because I didn't really take cognizance of it coming in. So only probably when I got on the job and I had to go back to go and, but it's not expected. But you get my gist, basically. So when we take that out, in March, you should be done. Or by March, you should be done with the material itself. Because I really do want to have like a mock interview. So you have like a feel of what they would ask you, a feel of what an interviewer will ask. I'll just put you in that serene. It's just going to be a one-on-one session. It shouldn't be more than maybe 20 minutes for each person. It could be on one about maybe our last day or maybe a Saturday. I'm going to schedule a call with everybody. It's going to be our time, a normal class time. But for that day, it's going to be a mock interview. I'll ask questions. I'll be able to correct you and all of that. So the essence of it is just ensure you finish this material by then. So I know that you are armed enough. So that when I'm making corrections, you're not going to go and be reading from the beginning. You know where to go and you know where to go back, you know where to consult because you've gone through the material itself. So moving back to what we just did or what you just saw is not a must to master the tool. If you can, please, I advise you to. But what I need you to do is arm yourself, know enough to be able to have a conversation or to be able to hold a conversation about the topic itself, JMeter or performance testing using JMeter. So that is like the advice I will give. Any other worries, Mumi?
Okay. The JMeter app. Yeah, can it be, I heard it can be used for functional testing, like you said. Is it possible?
Did anybody go mute? Did anybody go mute? I thought someone was talking. Okay. So guys, any other questions, any other worries, any other concerns? Caller Joe, are we good? Are we fine? Wumi, are we good? Are we fine?
Actually, for now, yes, but I would reach out to you later, maybe. So
No problem. No problem. No
yes,
problem.
but for now, it's a little bit confusing, actually. So yeah.
once you go through the material, it is
Okay.
clear enough, at least to a large extent.
Okay.
And trust me, these things, this in most cases, they don't get clear at the inception. It gets clearer over time. Whatever I know now is not what I knew. I probably don't even know maybe 70% last 2 years or last year. It was over time I was able to build any knowledge base I have right now. So I'm not expecting you to pick it up and know it all of a sudden. I told you the higher it gets, the tougher it becomes. So those are the things we are currently experiencing. That's why it's looking like this. But in case of any blocker or anything, just reach out. I'll be glad to help out.
Okay.
David,
Thank
okay, you want? Okay, no problem. Thanks. David, are we good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Toyosi, are we good?
Yes, I'm good.
Faye, are we good? Are we fine?
Um, I was just wondering, yeah. Do we need to like maybe like separately just learn a programming language on our own, kind of maybe like just watch some materials and stuff?
Trust me, I 100% support that. I 100% support that. I 100% support that. And another thing is, you don't need to even learn it to like in depth, like learn it to become a master of it. But you can. It gives you an edge. It really does give you an edge. You could decide to pick up maybe a JavaScript or maybe a Java. Those are two prominent languages that are most of the tools we use for automation. They tend to tilt towards JavaScript and Java. So I'll advise you to, if you have the time, if you have the luxury and all of those things. You don't even need to have the time. It's a sacrifice. On the long run, it's going to yield its dividends, and that would be your own gain and all of those things. So for you, if you can,
So
or any
Python
other
is
person,
useless.
it's not to. It's not at all, I beg. It's not. It gives you an edge. It gives you an edge. You understand things in depth compared to an average person that really is just an average tester. You have like at least a peak,
No, I'm
a
saying comparing like you're suggesting Java. So I'm saying if I learn Python instead, not a waste
you
of
if you
time.
learn Python, it's not a waste of time. Python is also used in Selenium, so it's not a waste of time. Selenium is a web-based automation tool. It supports Java, it supports Python, it supports C Sharp, I think C++, I'm not sure. So it supports those languages. You can write your test in those different languages, basically. So if it's Python, you are still on the edge. It still gives you an edge. So
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. So along with the Udemy material, if we learn a programming language, we are good to go, are we?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Very, very good. And just ensure you read up. Like I said, I always emphasize on reading up. It's very important. It builds up your knowledge base, terminology wise, and all of those things. So even if you can't read Guru, I know I sent another one which is Java T points. Read up on it. I think that one is very simplistic. They broke it down easily so people can comprehend it. So read up on that too. So guys, any other question before we call it a night or a day, basically? Okay, if there are no questions, if you have any questions, probably in the week, please ensure, like I said, ensure you make out time to study. It's very important, and consistency is very important. You don't need to do maybe if you are used to your 2 hours and you're not getting that 2 hours in that, a 10 minutes or a 20 minutes is enough. Just glance through it before you go to bed. It will help. other than leave it for like 2 or 3 days and go back to it. It could be very difficult. You might have forgotten some things and all. So consistency is very important. So please and please, let's make our time during the week to go through the materials. If you have any blocker, reach out to me. I'm always readily available to help out and help you get understanding on anything you have issues with. In the light of that, if there are no questions, I think we'll just call it a day. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Would there be? I mean, besides the test case scenario that we just did,
Yeah.
would there be more practical tests for us
Yes, I would, obviously. I will still even
assess?
get us another side so that all of those mistakes, corrections we've done in the new one, we'll be able to at least improve on that. So there's still going to be a need for a test case and probably even your bug sheet. So the next one will also have a bug sheet. You need to prepare your bug sheet. So those are something you submit alongside your test case development. By then, I expect all of the corrections I've made, you should be able to implement them into the new assignment itself or the new project itself. So is that good for you?
Yeah.
No problem. Any other question, guys, before we call it a night? Okay, have a good night, have a good week, and we'll see you on Saturday. And please put Nigeria in your prayers. It's a critical point. We're going into the elections. So remember us in your prayers. Thank you very much, and have David wants to say something.
No comments.
No comment.
No comments.
Hey, I be a comment deal because you know
Vote
touch
wisely.
Vote wisely. No
problem. Just
I
remember us in your prayer. Now we there. So now the old front.
Shall vote wisely.
No, obviously. We are. We trust God to help us. But I'm going to vote. I'm actually going to go and vote. I have my PVC and I'll be voting too. So
vote and stay with your vote. That's Goku, because
obviously, no, we are counting it together. It might even eat into class because I think they count most of the votes towards the evening. But no worries, we will still get class. But we will vote and we'll stay with them and we'll see the result together.
wait, you're in Lagos, yeah?
Yeah, I'm currently in Lagos.
God be with you, because that violence for Lagos go hot.
Nothing good day. Nothing good day. Nothing good day. I'm certain of that. Nothing good day. Soldier to want already.
I think otherwise, because
something good.
I know you guys are getting certain information for where you are, but now we the ground. Now we know what's in this up. And there's a lot to the internet or Twitter and all of that we pass. For example, now one of the things that happened on Friday, one of the places it happened, that's where I'm staying. It came in Ketsu. And trust me, the guys doing it are paid thugs. They are not the average people or the average masses. They are people that don't have anything to lose. And they do it on the express. Same day, soldiers were mobilized on the road. None of them wait, none of them will stay. I saw a few that were punished by soldiers and all of those things. So there's a level to anybody's madness when you see soldier. Your body will calm down. So and I understand the president is also wanting to at least help out with free and fair election. He knows he don't do well. So at least the best he can give us is a free and fair election. And we just pray for the best itself. Let me not bore you guys with my Nigerian story. You guys should have a good week and we'll catch you next week. Please read up. The knowledge is still fresh. Read up API and read up on performance test and let's see what we can do with the new
Please,
knowledge
Mr.
itself.
Sheo, don't forget the slides from last week, please.
No problem. But I will just beg you, please remind me. I won't I would send it to the group. Just remind. Thank you very much. Take care and bye.
Yeah, bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.